Hi, good afternoon, class. I am Chris's Bisnix, or Chris, and I'm the first negative speaker. And I wanted to talk about how the death penalty is an effective system at the moment. So, I want to attack the affirmative definition of life without parole versus the death penalty equivalent to life without parole. There's a big difference. Time magazine wrote an article in 1994, found that the difference, there's a difference of $51,000 a year between the different types of prison cells. Time found nationwide the average cell cost is $24,000 a year, and the maximum security cell cost is $75,000 a year. It may be true that life without parole is cheap, but is more expensive in the long run. There are also many other factors that are or are not always included in the cost estimate. Let's see. So, studies exclude the cost of geriatric care, recently found to be $69,000 per year for each inmate. Also, they exclude plea bargains. To determine a well-established estimate for the cost of an individual, I wanted to compare the two taken, the life without parole versus the death penalty in a study taken in 1997 by Justice for All. So, taking a look at life without parole, taking a low average of the average cell cost, so as I said before, $24,000 to $75,000. Let's take a number such as $34,000 a year, and add a 2% annual cost increase for things such as medical, and $75,000 for trial and appeals, which altogether comes out to approximately $3.01 million, so a little over $3 million. When comparing, though, the death penalty, we can say that when the study was taken, the average inmate life was 6 years. And for those 6 years, each inmate would cost approximately $60,000. With the same 2% increase, plus the $1.5 million for trials and appeals, which is more than enough, 20 times the amount of appeals for those on for life in prison, would come out to a little less than $2 million at $1.88 million. So that's just about $1 million difference between the two. So, like I said, when comparing the life without parole, averaging a little over $3 million, there's a little more than $1 million difference between the two. And especially when you're talking about a lot of people, that can add up to a lot. Also, when a lot of these studies taken, they do exclude, like I said, a lot of information. A quote from Death Penalty Resource Community says, "Some studies compare the cost of death penalty case to include pretrial, trial, appeals, and incarcerations, to only the cost of incarcerations for 40 years, excluding all trial costs and appeals for a life sentence." So, when we talk about the California state budget, as the affirmative speakers talked about, it doesn't mean that they need to specify what's being included in their costs. Death row is not always a long process. She brought an example of a man that was on death row for some 20-odd years. When the affirmative brought up this special case, like I said, it doesn't apply to everyone. Some death row facts. So there's some death row facts from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice provided evidence that there was numerous amounts of people that has stayed on death row as little as a little over 8 months, with an average of 10 years. So, and also the Oregon District Attorney, Josh Marquis, had to say this about the effectiveness of our justice system a few years back. Even according to Barry Scheidek's incident project, there have only been 147 DNA, 174 DNA people let's say, were forgiven for all their crimes, and then more than 90% of which were not murder. And 90% of which were not murder, let alone death penalty cases. In fact, the number of inmates taken off of death row, specifically because of DNA, because the DNA cleared them, is 5. And additionally, 9 inmates who were once on death row were eventually fully pardoned by DNA evidence. So this was taken a few years back. The numbers are a lot higher now, but as you can see, at this point, the DNA cleared 5 people off the death row, and the other 9 were already forgiven due to the effectiveness of the appeals process to make sure that those who are executed are truly guilty. And like I said, the DNA evidence only makes them, of course, there will be errors because we are human. Also wanted to mention quickly about the deterrence. So, as you guys know, most of our country does allow death penalty and has death row. And according to the Justice for All, the Texas murder rate is 1991 with 15.3. Murder rate in 1991 was 15.3 people per 100,000 by prosecution in Harrison County. Since the resumption of executions in 1982, the annual number of Harris County murders has plummeted from 701 to 241, and that is a 72% decrease. 72% is a lot. This is so from this you can see that there is quite a difference when you use the death penalty to a larger extent and you enforce it properly. Thank you.